Today, we're heading into the jungle. Well, not really. We're still in South Florida, but it certainly does feel that way. We're hanging out with the Dania Beach Vervet Project, and they gave us special permission to be able to come see the wild vervet monkey population that we have right here in South Florida and be able to teach you guys about them, take videos and photos. So how did wild monkeys from Africa end up in South Florida? Let's find out. So this is Missy, and she is the founder and the director of the Dania Beach Vervet Project, and she spends a lot of time with these animals, just studying them and trying to protect them. And in Florida, I mean, it's not a secret, we have a lot of non-native animals here, and it's a lot because people release their pets. So is that the case with these monkeys?
Actually, they're not released pets. So early in the 1940s, the Roosevelt family opened the Dania chimpanzee farm. They were importing primates in, and these clever guys figured out a way to get out. 12 to 15 escaped, and they were never caught. So what you see out here descend from those original escapees.
Wow. So these monkeys are considered non-native and not invasive, right? So
right.
It's not. So I know with the Burmese pythons, it's a really sensitive subject, and since they are so detrimental to the environment, unfortunately, they have to be euthanized. So why isn't FWC euthanizing these animals?
Well, luckily for this population, they have stayed around a population of 40 individuals, and based on research that we've done, modeling shows this population is actually predicted to go extinct. So the population isn't spreading, they're not leaving the area, there seems to be a neutral impact on the ecology here, and we haven't had any issues or complaints from people. So they seem just to be here hanging out and just doing their thing.
Yeah, they just pick
not
a spot
bothering.
and they
So they don't leave this area, which I think is very interesting. We asked that question. You know, vervets are highly adaptable species, so we're really expected to find more when we started the project. But it turns out there's always been about 40, and over the last 9 years, we haven't seen a change.
So we previously did a video talking about the macaques at the Silver Springs up north and how they have herpes and everything like that. So do these guys have herpes?
Absolutely not. Vervets can't carry herpes B, and in fact, if they were infected, they would die, just like you or I if we contracted the virus. And people mistake a vervet and macaques quite frequently, but these are completely separate genus altogether.
Okay, so in Florida, and we have vervet monkeys.
Yep.
Are these green vervets?
Yes, they're green monkeys. Yep.
So we have green vervets, we have macaques up north, and then there's also squirrel monkeys, but I think those have been collected out, is that right?
Yep, they're gone. They used to be at the bonnet house, and from what I understand, they've been trapped.
Right, so these guys, something that happened a lot with especially the squirrel monkeys is people catch them to sell them because it's a smaller monkey species that can easily be sold into the pet trade. So those ones, there was a population, and there's actually been multiple small populations that have popped up and then been extirpated by mainly collectors. So, do we have the same thing here? Are there collectors trying to trap these guys to sell them?
Yes, we hear about this frequently from employees along the road. Matter of fact, I got a call last year during the shutdown that a gentleman was out along the road with a net trying to catch one of the monkeys. So it does happen, and sadly, because they're so used to people, they do fall prey to those types of activities.
Okay, so then what are other threats that face these guys? Like, I guess one of the more common ways we do this when we're talking about animals is, what do they eat? What eats them?
Right. So we haven't witnessed any predation events at all. So what we think really is the issue is the urban environment. They get electrocuted, they get run over by cars, sometimes their limbs get trapped in some of the heavy machinery, and they suffer infections and ultimately death from those types of injuries.
So electrocution in the power lines?
Yes, yep, they do. So what it is, it's mostly male, so they go climb up to the top, they like to survey the area to see what's going on, and sadly they make contact with some of the live wires and they do become electrocuted. Yep.
Okay. So so you're saying, just to backtrack real quick, how long has this population been here?
Since the 1940s.
And it's still hovered around 40 individuals that whole time, more or less?
Well, there really wasn't an official study done. So in 1991, an FAU student named Bill Heiler, he did his own study, and he counted 36 individuals in all of Westlake Park, which is 1,500 acres of mangrove. So when we started, we thought, it's been 20 years, we should expect to find more vervet monkeys based on how well they adapt, and we counted 36.
Okay.
So, they've grown maybe 4 individuals.
That's fascinating. I mean, do you think that's Is that like a carrying capacity in the environment based on resources, or is that like a limited genetic diversity within a population from a low founding population? Or
we think there might be something going on with some inbreeding.
Yeah.
So we are seeing what we would consider external physical signs of possible inbreeding, and I think that might be, like you mentioned, from the original founding population. We don't know
Right.
the genetic diversity. And there's 1,500 acres. There's plenty of space for them. They're omnivores, so they really have lots of food available to them. So it's not the food thing. So something we think biologically is going on with them, limiting their growth.
So you might be thinking, well, why can't we do this with the pythons? Why can't we just fence off an area for them and let them live out their lives like that? And with the pythons, that's just absolutely not feasible. For one, the population is well over 100,000 animals. Some might say 300,000 animals. There's too many pythons. The area they encompass is far too vast, and there's no way to effectively contain them, being that they're snakes. They climb really well. They go right through fences. It's just about impossible to do so. So making a comparison between these about 40 monkeys in a very, very select area that have been in the same area without spreading for decades, compared to hundreds of thousands of invasive pythons spreading with a very clear march across the landscape. It's just incomparable animals. So that's why approaches to invasive species management have to be done piecemeal. You have to look at each individual species and come up with a plan that's going to be effective for each individual species you're dealing with in each situation that you're dealing with. Would you agree?
I love that you said that. I do agree with that. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all prescription for dealing with natives and invasives. And like you said, depending on the species and the data that you have available, can determine ultimately the best way to handle that particular problem.
Yeah, and unfortunately with most invasive or non-native animals, the rule is kill them all. You know, there is no argument, there is no discussion about it. It's just wipe them out. So the work that she's doing is really interesting in the fact that there is some trying to get some footing on this topic and be able to make some headway to probably, hopefully protect these guys and encapsulate them in this area where they can live out their lives naturally without having to go into captivity and without having to be exterminated.
So the goal with the sanctuary is to make sure that we keep this number at what they are. We don't want them to spread and grow. So as a responsible sanctuary, we would prevent them from having offspring. And so the idea is just to keep the population that we have in a safe space and let them live their lives, and eventually they would die out. So this is, I believe, the best way to manage this type of particular.
So you mean you would like basically in dog terms, you would spay and neuter so that they're not able to reproduce and be able to spread?
Right, yeah, I don't think that's, it'd be difficult to find placement for vervet monkeys in a responsible zoo or a sanctuary setting. So when you do go into a sanctuary mode, the idea is to prevent more animals from coming into captivity. Mm-hmm. And that's the right thing to do for these animals. Provide vet care, get them the food that they need, prevent them from reproducing any further, and just let them live their lives.
What do these things eat out here? What do they survive on?
Like I said, they're omnivores. However, I have noticed that they prefer human foods. And I think because they're so small and, I don't want to say harmless, but they don't really bother people, that humans enjoy feeding them.
So their main diet is offerings from people,
Yes.
or like scavenging people's food?
Offerings.
Okay.
So people see them and they'll pull off the side of the road and they know where the monkeys are. So you will have some regular feeders who know their patterns. And this kind of goes back to being able to collect them for the pet trade.
Right.
However, they have preferred a human diet.
Okay.
I think that could be dangerous for them too.
Well,
Diabetes,
I was
things
about
like
to say,
that, right?
this has got to be negative for their health if they're being
Definitely.
fed a bunch of junk food by people, right?
Right, yeah. I've actually seen a female down a whole box of lemon heads.
Oh,
my
wow.
goodness.
Right, she didn't flinch. So I know it's high in sugar, and people say they do it because they think they're hungry, and I get
Right.
the compassionate side of that. However, like I tell people, there's plenty of food. They just learn to depend on people for food, which is it's dangerous for
Yeah.
both human and monkey.
And the closer you are to humans, more likely you are to get hit by a car, caught
Yep.
by somebody trying to catch them. The electrocution thing you were saying.
Right, I think that's what drags them out into the urban areas, is because they associate urban spaces with people equal food.
Right.
And that gets them into lots of trouble.
So Misty, do they have names? I know all of our subscribers are going to be wondering. Do you name them?
Yes, we name them. They all have names. So the female right across there, she's the oldest female that we have in our group, and her name is Cupcake. And originally she was named Cupcake because she was kind of chunky. But with age, she's kind of lost some weight, but she really is a sweet monkey. So the name fits.
That's awesome.
It's interesting it's so funny when I first started, some of the ones that were babies and are adults having babies, especially with the full cycle of life. So I remember when Olivia was a youngster, and now she's had 2 babies so far. So. Oh my God.
Thanks so much for having us, Missy. We had a great time, learned a lot about the vervet monkeys, and we're going to put your information in our description box so you guys can check out more about the project, and then leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. What do you think about the monkeys out here? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next adventure.